Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving deep into, well, the psychology of motivation. Our mission, really, is to cut through some of the noise. We want to pull out the most important, maybe even surprising insights from, psychological research, real-life observations, to really get a handle on what ignites our drive, what keeps us going, and helps us grow. I mean, think about it for a second. What actually compels you to, say, wake up before dawn for a really long run? Or maybe to finally launch that passion project you've been dreaming about for ages? Is it the promise of some reward, or maybe the satisfaction of making progress? Or is it something, a bit deeper, a vision of what could be? In this world we live in, with endless distractions, those quick dopamine hits, how do we reliably tap into that internal spark? How do we achieve what truly matters to us? That's really the big question we're exploring today. So let's start right at the beginning. What is motivation, fundamentally? Psychologists often define it as the desire to act in service of a goal. Simple as that, really. It's the engine, the force that energizes, directs, and then sustains our behavior. And it seems to have three key components. First, there's activation.
Right, that initial spark. Just getting started.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then there's persistence.
That's the grit, isn't it? Sticking with it when things get tough.
And finally, intensity.
Yeah, the focus, the vigor you bring to chasing that goal. And you see these components everywhere, don't you? Like training for a marathon, or maybe mastering a new skill for work, or even just sticking with a new healthy habit you're trying to build. Motivation is kind of this invisible force guiding our choices, our actions, whether we're always conscious of it or not.
Okay, so when we talk about what drives that force, research usually splits it into two main categories. First up is extrinsic motivation.
Ah, yes, the external stuff.
Right. Things like praise, money, grades, maybe even social recognition, taking on extra shifts for a bonus.
Or studying hard for an exam just to get that good grade, maybe to please someone else.
And the other side of the coin.
That would be intrinsic motivation. This comes purely from within. The activity itself is the reward. There's no external carrot, so to speak.
Or like learning a language just because you love it.
Exactly. Or maybe painting or playing music simply for the joy it brings you, not for any expected payoff.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. There's this concept, it often surprises people, called the over-justification effect.
That's a crucial one.
It basically highlights how too many external rewards can actually, diminish your intrinsic motivation, can dampen that internal fire.
It seems counterintuitive, right? More reward should mean more motivation.
You'd think so.
Yeah.
But imagine, say, a child who just loves to draw. Pure passion. Then you start paying them for every single drawing they do.
Suddenly, it's not just about the love of drawing anymore.
Exactly. It can start to feel like a chore, like a job.
Yeah.
And that initial spark, that internal delight, might just fade.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? Are you doing something because you genuinely love it, or has some external factor kind of taken over the driver's seat?
It's a powerful point. Rewards have their place, obviously.
But they can sometimes unintentionally undermine the very drive we want to encourage. Understanding that balance is key.
Okay, that leads us nicely into some of the major theories. These really help us unpack the deeper mechanics of motivation. And we almost have to start with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right?
Absolutely. Maslow's model is so influential. It pictures human needs like a pyramid. At the very bottom, the foundation, you have your basic physiological needs: food, water, sleep, shelter, the absolute essentials.
Can't really think about much else if those aren't met.
Precisely. Then you move up to safety needs: security, stability, then belonging and love, feeling connected. After that comes esteem needs: feeling competent, getting recognition.
And at the very top,
Self-actualization. That's the drive to reach your full potential, to become everything you're capable of becoming.
but the real insight here maybe isn't just the layers themselves.
Well, yes. It's realizing how often we might try to motivate ourselves or others with those higher level goals, when actually some of those foundational needs, maybe psychological safety at work, or even just feeling like you belong to a group, might be completely unmet.
So you're setting yourself up for failure almost.
It can definitely lead to burnout, yeah, instead of genuine growth towards self-actualization.
And didn't Maslow add something later on? Something beyond self-actualization?
He did, yes. It's often overlooked, but he later added transcendence. This is a drive towards something beyond the self. Think altruism, spiritual connection, serving a cause greater than yourself.
So motivation isn't just about personal fulfillment.
It suggests it can extend much further than that.
Okay, building on that foundation, there's another really key theory. Self-determination theory, or SDT, developed by Ryan and Deci.
SDT is incredibly insightful. It identifies three fundamental, universal psychological needs. These are seen as crucial for sustained, healthy motivation and well-being.
And those are?
First, autonomy. The need to feel like you're in control, making your own choices, directing your own actions.
Okay, freedom to choose. Makes sense.
Second, competence. The desire to master skills, to feel effective and capable in what you do.
Right, feeling like you're actually good at something.
And third, relatedness. This is the need for connection, for belonging, for caring relationships with others.
Autonomy, competence, relatedness, ACR.
Exactly. And what's so powerful about SDK is the idea that when these three needs are satisfied, they foster a much deeper, more intrinsic and sustainable form of motivation.
So it's not just about getting things done.
No, it's about feeling genuinely invested, engaged, and frankly, thriving. It also explains why things like micromanagement or feeling isolated can be so incredibly demotivating. They directly attack those core needs.
I can definitely see how that applies across the board. Work, hobbies, relationships, everything. Then we have something a bit different. Expectancy theory by Vroom. This one gives us almost a mathematical formula.
Sort of, yeah. It's often expressed as motivation, expectancy, x instrumentality, x valence. It sounds complex, but the idea is quite intuitive when you break it down.
Okay, break it down for us. Let's take an example. Maybe someone think about taking on a big, challenging project at work.
Perfect. Let's call her Alex. Alex's motivation isn't just about, say, the potential promotion at the end. It's layered. First, expectancy. Does Alex actually believe her effort will lead to successfully completing this project? Does she think, if I put in the work, can I actually do this? It's about perceived capability.
Right. Does she have the skills, the time, the support needed?
Exactly. Second, instrumentality. Does Alex believe that successfully completing the project will actually lead to the desired outcome? Like, will doing this project truly get her that promotion or the recognition she wants? Is the link clear?
Okay. So will performance actually result in the reward?
And third, valence. How much does Alex value that outcome? Is that promotion really important to her? Does she deeply desire that recognition, or is it just sort of nice to have?
The value she places on the reward itself.
Precisely. And Vroom's point is that if any one of those three components, expectancy, instrumentality, or valence, is zero, or even just very low,
Then the whole motivation equation collapses.
exactly, motivation tanks. All three need to be reasonably strong for that real drive to kick in. It's much more nuanced than just, I want the prize.
That really does add a lot of texture.
Yeah.
Okay, what about some other theories? I know there's drive reduction theory.
Yes, Hull's theory. This one's more about basic biological needs. It suggests we're primarily motivated to act in ways that reduce internal tension or discomfort caused by unmet needs.
Like hunger, thirst.
Exactly. Hunger creates discomfort, a drive state, so you're motivated to eat to reduce that drive and restore balance, or homeostasis. It's quite a fundamental, almost mechanical view.
And complementing that, there's arousal theory.
Right. Arousal theory suggests we're motivated to maintain an optimal level of physiological arousal or excitement. We don't just seek to reduce drives, we also seek stimulation.
So we try to avoid being bored, but also avoid being overly stressed.
Precisely. We seek activities that hit that sweet spot. If we're under-aroused, maybe bored, we might seek out a challenge like a puzzle or a stimulating conversation.
And if we're over-aroused, maybe stressed or anxious,
We'd be motivated to find ways to calm down, perhaps seeking a quiet environment or doing some relaxation exercises. It's about finding that just right level of activation.
Okay, and here's one I think many of us can relate to, especially students or anyone facing deadlines. Temporal motivation theory.
Ah, yes. The power of the deadline.
Right. This theory basically highlights how, as a deadline gets closer, our motivation to complete the task often increases dramatically.
Last-minute surge of productivity, that frantic focus, that's temporal motivation theory, or TMT, in action. The perceived value of completing the task increases as the time available decreases.
It explains procrastination quite well, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And building on that more practical side, there's a really useful strategy called the WOOP method. This was developed by Gabriel Oettingen at NYU. And it's not just theory. It's a very concrete, evidence-based technique for structuring your motivation.
WOOP. Okay, what does that stand for?
It stands for Wish, Outcome, Obstacle, Plan.
Wish, Outcome, Obstacle, Plan. Okay.
So first, wish. You identify a specific goal, something you genuinely desire to achieve. Then, outcome. You vividly imagine the best possible result of achieving that wish. Really feel it.
So far, sounds like standard goal setting, maybe with visualization.
But here comes the crucial part. Obstacle. You identify the key internal obstacle that could prevent you from reaching your wish. Not external barriers, but things within you.
Like what? Self-doubt, procrastination, fear.
Exactly, those kinds of things. What is it inside you that typically gets in the way? And finally, plan. You create a specific if-then plan to overcome that internal obstacle. If obstacle X occurs, then I will perform action Y.
Okay, let's try a quick example. Let's say my wish is to be more compassionate in my interactions.
Great wish. What's the best outcome you can visualize?
Maybe having deeper, happier, more fulfilling relationships with people, less conflict.
Nice. Now, the tricky part, what's the key internal obstacle? It can't be other people are difficult.
Right, internal. Okay, maybe it's my tendency to get overwhelmed by my own stuff, my own stress, and then I just withdraw or get defensive.
Okay, that's a concrete internal obstacle. So what's your plan? An if-then plan?
If I start feeling overwhelmed and notice I want to withdraw, then I will take 3 deep breaths and just listen for 1 more minute before responding.
Perfect. See how that directly addresses the internal obstacle? WOOP isn't just wishful thinking. It forces you to anticipate the internal challenges and prepare for them. It makes the goal much more achievable.
That does seem incredibly practical. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground on what motivation is and the theories behind it. Why does understanding all this matter so much, especially right now?
Well, I think it's incredibly relevant today. We live in this hyper-digital age, right? Constant notifications, endless scrolling.
Those quick dopamine hits from our phones?
Exactly. And all that, plus just sheer screen fatigue, can seriously sap our intrinsic drive, our ability to focus on deeper, more meaningful goals. We get pulled in so many directions.
And there's a mental health angle too, isn't there?
Absolutely. We have to acknowledge that conditions like depression, anxiety, ADHD, they can significantly impact motivation levels. It's not just about willpower. There are real neurological and psychological factors at play.
So it's not just about trying harder.
Definitely not. But, and this is the crucial point, understanding the psychology of motivation actually offers hope. It's empowering. It gives us the knowledge to consciously, proactively design our environments, our routines, our approaches in ways that actually foster motivation.
So we can regain some control even amidst the chaos.
Yes. By connecting with deeper meaning, by leveraging those frameworks we talked about, like ensuring our needs for autonomy, competence, and relatedness are met.
Using practical tools like WOOP.
Proactively managing procrastination with deadlines instead of just reacting. This knowledge isn't just academic theory. It's a toolkit for navigating modern life and building a more driven, fulfilling existence.
Okay, so let's make this really actionable. How can listeners start applying these concepts right away?
First step, I'd say, is clarify your purpose. Really take a moment, maybe even write it down. What is your why? What's the deeper value behind the goals you're pursuing? Are they truly your goals or ones you feel you should have?
Getting clear on that intrinsic why. Okay.
Second, actively work to meet your psychological needs, those SDT needs. Autonomy, competence, relatedness. Look for opportunities, big or small, to have more choice, to tackle challenges that build your skills, and to connect meaningfully with others.
So if your job feels like it's crushing your autonomy, maybe look for small ways to carve out choices or seek that feeling outside of work.
Exactly. Be proactive about feeding those needs.
What else? We mentioned deadlines.
Yes, use deadlines strategically. Don't just wait for them to loom. Set mini deadlines for yourself to break down big tasks. Use that temporal motivation theory to your advantage to combat procrastination. Create your own urgency.
And the tricky balance between internal and external rewards.
Right. Mix extrinsic and intrinsic rewards thoughtfully. External rewards aren't inherently bad, but use them wisely. Maybe use a bonus to help fund a passion project, supporting intrinsic drive, rather than making the work solely about the bonus. Acknowledge effort with praise, but don't let the praise become the only reason for the effort.
Supporting purpose, not replacing it.
Precisely. And finally, maybe most importantly, celebrate progress. Especially celebrate the effort and the learning, not just the outcome or innate ability.
Fostering that growth mindset.
Exactly. Acknowledging small wins builds momentum and keeps you going for the long haul. It reinforces persistence.
Okay, lots of practical takeaways there. So for everyone listening, maybe take a moment to reflect.
Yeah, ask yourself, are you generally driven more by external validation or by that inner sense of delight or purpose?
And thinking about those 3 core needs from self-determination theory, autonomy, competence, relatedness, which one feels perhaps most unmet in your life right now? Where could you focus a little energy?
And maybe give WOPA a try this week. What's a wish you have? What's the best outcome? What's that internal obstacle you foresee? And what's your specific if-then plan to tackle it?
Well, thank you for joining us on this pretty deep dive into the psychology of motivation.
Yeah.
We've covered quite a bit of what drives us, the crucial difference between intrinsic and extrinsic factors, and we've dug into some powerful theories,
From Maslow's hierarchy right through to practical tools like SDT and WOOP.
all designed, hopefully, to give you some tools and insights to fuel your own drive.
And maybe as you go about your week, consider asking someone close to you what truly motivates you, and follow up with, and why. The answers might surprise you, and reflecting on your own answer might be revealing too.
We'll be back next time with another deep dive. We'll be exploring cultivating a growth mindset, from setbacks to breakthroughs. Until then, keep seeking, keep growing, and let that spark light your path.